Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and Iron Man here from the Block Runner, and today we're going to have another update on Robinhood. So, clearly in the last couple of weeks, we've been focusing on Robinhood, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
You're going to see some charts here where nothing but green lines everywhere.
Yeah, the juice is still flowing. In other words, like there's no reason to not keep paying attention to Robinhood chain for a lot of reasons, right? Metrics only go up mode, interest, even public exposure, because the founder himself is out there on the roadshow trying to convince the masses that this is a big deal. So
yeah,
why is that important? Because maybe we could finally break out of this crypto Twitter bubble for once. It's like actually create something that attracts real people, real human beings out there that are desperately seeking for opportunity, right?
Yeah.
If you need anything to reinforce that understanding, just look at the gambling data, right? That's proof that people are like basically desperate. They're looking for something, some avenue of financial exposure that can create for them outsized gains, right? That's gambling does that, but it's, I don't know, typically understood as more predatory. But which crypto also has that same
feel
to it. But yeah, maybe it'll get cleaned up because of, everything that's being worked on here.
Yeah, so let's take a look. Robinhood chain is now adding 6,000 new tokenized equity holders per day.
That's a lot.
Yeah, 6,000 per day. All right, so we have a video here from Vlad. Let's see what he has to say about that.
The chain, but then all the developers have created all kinds of unique pools that we didn't even think would exist, and all kinds of protocols where, for example, if you hold a meme coin, you just get stock tokens airdropped to you, right? So they've like connected meme coins, core cryptos, and the stock tokens and composed them into unique products that we wouldn't have anticipated creating. We probably wouldn't have thought of to make ourselves. So it's Robinhood chain is this combination of developer platform with financial primitives like high yield and stock tokens, the chain.
So there it is. He's literally laying out the ingredients of like what makes Robinhood chain so interesting at the time. And I don't know, I guess there was a little bit of question, at least for ourselves, right? It's like, would Vlad I don't know, utter these exact words that he just uttered? Because if you listen to it closely, they'll sound very similar to like securities, right? It's like where you just hold something and then you're passively yielding on some other thing.
Yeah, so it says if you hold a meme coin, you just get stock tokens airdropped to you.
Right. So, I mean, that's a huge endorsement for one, for a lot of the projects we've been kind of covering over the last month or two.
Yeah.
Stockbrokers does this. Index does this. Net is doing this in a different version of it. It's not direct distribution. It's like deposited into a treasury that you do have claim access to. So, but nonetheless, like this is the prevalent, obviously killer product that we've identified so far. And there's been a lot of developers building around it, right? Because there's obvious interest to it because it's a no-brainer, right? Who doesn't like to just
earn passive yield?
Make money, dude.
Yeah.
Why is that such a crime?
Yeah, I don't know. We were talking about that earlier offline, and like that was a rule set in about 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And so does it make sense to perpetuate these rules now with all this knowledge and stuff? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's only an issue for us, right? Because we live in the United States. And I think there's other jurisdictions out there where that's also an issue, but for most, it's not.
No, I agree. It's an issue for the United States, but I think any project wants to access the capital in the United States. So they want to offer services to U.S. people, right? And they can't, right? That's a problem.
Yeah, so then how do you go about doing that? You got to like alter your communications a little bit. You can't say we're giving you passive yield.
Yeah, you can't do that.
We're returning the value you've given to us through your marketing efforts.
That's right.
Shit like that, right?
Yeah.
That's one way. Another way to get by this is like geo-fencing, right?
Yeah. The third way is actually building something where you don't do that, but give you the same results.
Yeah, but who's going to do all that? Right? That's too much work.
Yeah, so we have a tweet here by Lambs that says, Robinhood is pretty straightforward when your three biggest bags are Pawns, Delta, and Net. These are the three bags I keep bull posting nonstop. It says, if I said a few weeks ago, if we'd have some big runners coming, one we could snag under 1 million market cap that you could have and hold here. And then obviously I'm not advising jumping into, but he talks about cash cat, and ultimately the big deal here is these charts.
Yes, this is
green
again
candles everywhere.
Yeah, this is why we're covering Robinhood, right, guys? But again, part of this is you can't cover them all either. Like Delta did not even. What the hell is that, right?
Right.
But that's kind of the point of why you're paying attention to Robinhood, right? There's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, and right now Pawns is sitting at, what would you say this morning, like 100 million?
Close to 100. It's like around 90, 80 million market cap. So Pawns has clearly run away with the launchpad war.
Yeah.
Right? The launchpad race that we kind of got like a lot of the activity started on Robinhood like a month or so ago. And they've taken off with it, which so good for them. Congrats. Expect a lot of meme coins to be coming from there. They're basically the pumped out fun of Robinhood. That's the position they've taken. And I think they have some stock token integration as well. So
yeah.
And then of course the little buyback and burn flywheel to the Pawns token itself. So that's why it's very bullish, right? But again, there's opportunities galore. So much so that we can't cover them all. So it's very prudent that you do a lot of time just kind of, spending time on X yourself, looking for, things that are genuinely interesting. And we try our best to do that every week on this channel with these Robinhood updates. And we try to highlight a project every week, like we did NetNet last week. Interviewed the founder,
Al Dunlap.
You guys seem to like that. The token just keeps going up.
That's right.
Who knows if it's going to go up forever? Hopefully, because that would be excellent. But unrealistic, right? We know crypto. At some point, the music stops. Things become too frothy. Is it now? If you go on the timeline, it seems pretty euphoric out there. People are very happy.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is because Bitcoin went up like 20% in like a day.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah, very unusual.
That has something to do with like the treasury, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
the United States, like essentially is committing $4 billion in just treasury buybacks,
and
then
seem that
no, it's not a lot for sure.
Okay,
but I think there's more to it than that, than just a $4 billion.
Well, they got people excited to buy Bitcoin, I guess.
Yeah.
So it just completely inverted beyond people's like expectation, and then on top of that, all this RWA fun that's happening on chain. So yeah, it feels, if my gut was telling me anything, it feels like overly euphoric, especially at this point in the market cycle.
Yeah,
it's like
agreed.
People shouldn't be having this much fun, at least not yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like maybe you need to pull back a bit here. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just these are the kind of instincts you kind of build over time, right?
Yeah. So if this is the first time you're hearing about Net, go back to our weekly podcast that we just released. We interviewed Al Dunlap, and we go deeper into it. But here's kind of a rundown. Net just hit the largest RWA distribution event in the history of Robinhood within 6 hours of their new product being live. Apart from that, they are the #1 RWA by volume on Robinhood. 25% of Rialto's total volume. They hold over $1 million of on-chain stocks in the treasury.
That was like 500,000 like a few days ago.
And then I think now it's like 3 million.
No, it's total. This is just
stocks. Oh, on-chain stocks. Okay, yeah. So are the #1 holder of NVIDIA on Robinhood. They're the #1 holder of SpaceX, have done more RWA volume than Index, have a starting APR of 13,000%.
It's pretty excellent.
Have launched, 10 games, products, and more coming soon. There's no project like Net.
Yeah, so again, the festering continues, and more and more people are being sucked in to the black hole that is the NetNet treasury, the NetNet ecosystem, right? And as assumed, right? Because Al Dunlap, he understands what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Per that interview we just had with him, he gets it.
Yeah. So speaking of one of the projects that just launched for NetNet is the button. He launched the button.
Literally a red button. Like if you go to the app, there's a button you can push there. You pay $1.
Right.
That grants you access to push the button. Now, is it as lucrative now? Because I think during the process of pushing the button this morning, they were issuing NFTs.
That's right.
To people who pushed the button. But I think they may have cut off that NFT issuance.
Have. Yeah, because part of the design here is that you spend $1, you push the button, 50 cents goes to buy NVIDIA stock, and the other 50 cents goes into like the treasury.
Yeah.
That when after 2,000 button presses occur, then that treasury gets distributed to the NFT holders.
Right. Yeah. So then, why are people going to press the button now moving forward? Like if you don't own an NFT, like you're not
Yeah.
gonna get returns, are you?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, well, I thought the idea is to like have people perpetually pushing this button forever for the rest of the time
Yeah.
because it's like a compounding. It's like a, you know, keep pushing the button. There's more trigger events down the road. So like, but then you would think that would dilute the pool. I don't know. They're up to something weird, but nonetheless, it triggered a lot of attention and awareness because it was such like a mass RWA distribution event, right?
Yeah, so it looks like net a button presser NFT is being sold on secondary for, what is it, $41.
Yeah, it's gone up significantly. So these are like the earlier ones. I think there was roughly 10,000 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense that they would shut off the faucet essentially around 10K.
Yeah.
So they have like a legitimate NFT collection now. Like, I don't know exactly what that represents beyond just receiving. Oh, damn. Does it say 18,000? Yeah, I guess they didn't shut off the button. Looks like they're just making more and more of these, dude.
Yeah, it looks like the floor price is $1 though.
Well, yeah, they're going to just keep printing NFTs forever, which I don't know if that's the plan. But it seems like it would have to be the plan if that game is to continue, right?
Yeah.
Like, more people push the button means the more RWA value that accrues into this treasury. Yeah, 21,000, dude. Look at that.
21,000, yeah.
It's ticking up in real time. Pretty fast, too.
Yeah.
So you need to own one of these, essentially, to get the distribution of RWAs. And I think all they're trying to attempt here is to prove that you can massively distribute tokenized stocks to a very large demographic. And it's like, there's nothing challenging here.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is push the damn button, dude.
Yeah.
And you're getting stock.
Yeah. So you take $1, push the button, and then
You'll get some stonks
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
that's right.
And then the more people who push buttons down the line, you're gonna keep getting stonks.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think it's novel in the sense like it's really like shoving it in people's faces, like how bringing this stuff on chain can really drastically increase the exposure, the surface exposure of like who can get access to.
Well,
these
not
things.
only that, the creativity that is being enabled because it's on chain.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. It's a demonstration of like what you should be doing, right, to attract people who typically wouldn't go buy stocks directly.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet you a lot of people out there would be willing to push a red button.
Hell yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Gamble, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's what it's doing, and the market is reacting pretty positively, right?
Yeah, so I think we interviewed them around 3 million market cap, something like that. And so now it's sitting up 25%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is it. So the thing to note here is, yeah, even though it's at 4.6 million market cap, fully diluted is 41 million,
Yeah.
right? So that's something to keep an eye on because you don't see this that often these days anymore.
What part?
Just the fact that there's only a portion in circulation.
It's true. Typically, like things that launch through meme pads, it's like fully
100%.
in circulation at launch. So that is a little bit new, but also, yeah, factor in.
The mechanic here is different, so.
Yeah, and the comparison to Ohm, right? That thing
Yeah.
hit 4 billion
That's right.
market cap, fully diluted. So who knows? Again, like it's really hard to spot exactly where we are in the timeline.
Yeah, so here's another project, the Standard Reserve. Token distributions are broken, fixed emissions inflate supply when demand can't absorb it, then fail to expand when demand is strongest and growth should be accelerated. The Standard Reserve is the on-chain central bank with a reflexive monetary policy backed by ultra-hard reserves. One liquid token, one economy, NFTs powering the entire flywheel.
Bam. Sounds like the perfect cook, don't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah, so this is a new thing that's generating a lot of buzz, but it doesn't exist yet. But we figured we put it on your radar because it's sounds a lot like net talk, building a reserve, building, some sort of currency value that's pegged to that reserve. Therefore, it's like ultra hard backed. And again, expect RWAs to play into that factor of what makes things ultra, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be because it's, it's not a vapor token, right?
Yeah.
It's backed
It's
by.
not a meme.
Yeah.
It's a company.
Yeah, but then let's throw NFTs into it too, and like see how it does. But
Yeah, so here they say, what does a reflexive monetary policy mean? In short, the token expands and builds hard reserves when capital flows in. When capital flows out, supply tightens and the token defends itself. It is a sovereign internet money with a central bank built into its rules. And then net capital inflows signal real demand. Growth accelerates and hard reserves backing the token accumulate. When flows reverse, issuance contracts and the monetary policy flips to defend the token built in a deflationary defensive mechanism. And they have a white paper finally live. This was posted a couple of days ago.
Yeah, white paper season back in town, dude.
Yeah, I mean, look at the engagement here, though.
Yeah, it's massive. So clearly people are interested, right? And I think net has kind of signaled that, it kind of has the same performative functions, right? Whenever things like price premium gets too high, issuance of the tokens cease, right? And then once price goes down below the NAV, the treasury can buy back those tokens, and therefore it defends the price value of the premium, all that stuff. So
yeah, thank you, Michael Saylor.
Yeah,
for popularizing that.
Yeah, and Ohm and net. So like we're starting to see, I don't know, maybe a new market meta forming around this whole mechanic, right?
Yeah. So we got another project here called Prism. It's not just another RWA coin on RH. The bigger bet is whether Prism assets can become the place where people actually find and trade tokenized assets. Right now, everything is fragmented across different issuers, chains, and liquidity pools. Prism is already tracking 1,200 verified assets from 36 issuers across 17 networks, covering $13 billion. Stocks, treasuries, private credit, real estate, metals, and more, all in one place. It says now they've also launched stokenize, right?
I think it's supposed to be stonkenized.
I think it is stokenize.
Yeah, who would stokenize things? Nobody, right?
No, nobody. Yes, stoke a fire. Right,
or just being stoked. Like I'm just stoked, right?
Stoked, yeah.
That's people still say that, right? Or not really?
No, that was like in the 80s.
Nobody says stoked anymore. Fuck, dude, I'm getting old.
Which led real businesses tokenize themselves and share revenue with holders on chain.
Say what?
Share revenue. Dude, it just like PTSD from the Gensler era. That this, if you tweet this, you're already like on the SEC like sites.
Yeah, SWAT crashing through your window.
That's right.
Straight to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're living in new times, Willis. Great times. Gary Gensler's out.
Right.
Who's the new guy?
Paul Atkins.
There you go. Atkins is in, dude. So, we've already seen the SEC put out statements, and we've covered them recently. Like they're definitely going to loosen, the permissions of like what it is startups can do in the crypto space, specifically around funding.
Yeah, raising funds, $5 million to $75 million.
Yeah, and all they did, you just have like some disclosures you gotta like live up to. That's it.
Correct.
Some reportings, whatever.
Yeah, just give it to Claude to do it.
Yeah. So it's like, regulations are kind of loosening. So feels like a product like this might be perfect timing, potentially, assuming it actually gets adoption. Especially specifically the ability to, raise funds for an off-chain business, but through on-chain mechanics, right? That seems to be what. Oh, it's tokenized. I think it is tokenized.
Oh, it is tokenized.
Holy.
Wow.
Interesting.
All right, I guess we were wrong. It is tokenized. Okay, all right. So there's an article here. Definitely you should read it, but this tweet here summarizes it.
Yeah, because it's extremely long, that article.
Yeah.
Extremely.
If you can't read 500 pages, here's your tweet.
Yeah.
It says PrismAssets.shop is basically a marketplace search engine for real-world assets that already exist on crypto rails, tokenized stocks, gold, real estate, treasuries, etc. Prism says it verifies the contracts and checks whether you can actually trade them instead of just showing a useless buy button. Stokenize is the much more interesting part. It's basically a launchpad for real businesses. A restaurant, startup, small company, property project, etc. can get verified and launch a token. People buy those tokens to help fund the business, and in return, the token can represent rights to a portion of the business revenues or profits.
Damn.
So clearly, this guy here is definitely not in the United States, because I think you could do this. It's not for Americans.
Right. Yeah. So there's procedures in place to kind of like, deal with that. Right.
Yeah. So we got the flow here. And so read the article, read this tweet.
Yeah, we're attempting to get the founder here for an interview soon, maybe next week or the week after.
Do you know if they're doxed?
I don't know. So we're going to find out.
I guess we'll find out.
Because there's a lot of angles of complexity here, but it feels like this is a potential perfect pairing of like a crossroads of like, positioning a protocol on the right chain for the right purpose in the right regulatory environment, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, who's gonna capture that moment,
Yeah.
right? And in essence, if you can like make it so frictionless and so, I don't know, compliant, so whatever, efficient, it's kind of similar to like what Pumped Out Fund did with like, you know, its launchpad, figuring out like the problems of that
Sure.
era, which is like liquidity bootstrapping. It built in like all the right rails to really streamline and make efficient like the launching of meme coins.
Mm-hmm.
So this could do something similar, like whether or not there's an actual demand for, you know, exposure to real businesses. I feel like there would be.
Yeah.
But man, is that challenging. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. And this is a tweet today. So Prism Dex RWA is coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
So still super early. And all right, let's take a look at this. We're launching a decentralized exchange for tokenized real-world assets on Prism. It says anyone will be able to add and farm liquidity and also mint new tokenized assets from the synthetic pool against one-to-one in stablecoin value. We are currently testing this feature, and you can now add liquidity to 1,182 tokenized assets that are live on Prism to earn liquidity rewards. The same mechanism where you add liquidity to meme coins works here, but the metrics, parameters, and strategies and economics used here is different. The reason if the liquidity addition is not proper, the markets would eat you alive due to very large scale asset value and extreme volatility sometimes. It says, please check this out and let me know what you feel. The Prism Dex will be a whole different protocol with multiple features like options to add liquidity, and we are also working on aggregating tokenized non-US stocks such as LVMH, Toyota, etc., which are not being traded on any protocol on a generalized scale. So this is a guy that we might be talking to.
Yeah, that's
Hash.
him. That's Hash. Shout out to you, Hash. Definitely, yeah, looking forward to find out more. But let's see what the interface looks like.
All right, here we are. So Prism, it's prismassets.shop. And we got treasuries and cash up to 4.25 APY. Golds and metals, top movers.
It's everything, dude.
It says stocks and ETFs, real estate, art.
Warhols, Picassos.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and then music royalties.
Yeah, so I'm interested to know like how this is all being aggregated, because this is quite the curation here. Like, what does this remind you of? I mean, it feels like OpenSea in a sense. Like, OpenSea really figured out how to, you know, build the all-in-one market experience for NFT enthusiasts at the time, and they did very well. So it's like NFTs isn't like the hot thing of the today. RWAs are, right? So it's like it feels like there's a real marketplace for something like this. It's just whether or not, like, you know, the market will be interested in, I guess, having ownership of all of these different classes of assets, right? Like right now they want exposure to tokenized stocks, clearly.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you see a future where people want, I don't know, uranium access ownership to
I would,
uranium?
yes. I have some experiments to run, dude.
Okay. Well, then you need a place like this in order to fulfill your dreams, right? Right? Or have...
I want to make sure that uranium is claimable, though.
Well, that's what they do.
That's right.
They're doing all the verification on the back end, I guess, to make sure it's like these are legitimate assets up for grab, right?
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's interesting, but like you said, it's obviously very early, you know, whether or not the market appetite can kind of like fester and expand beyond just stock tokens. Right?
Yeah, here's how early. So they launched the token August 4th, and right now it's sitting at 1.6 million, and it's fully diluted.
There it is. Yeah, so that's the market interface, marketplace, whatever, OpenSea for RWAs. Some are calling it the Amazon of RWAs.
Yep.
Whatever, right? But to me, the more interesting thing is whether or not stokenize can actually work, right? Because I don't know. I could see like, you know, crypto founders maybe take advantage of it.
Sure.
I feel like you got to come to the table with some sort of like proof of revenue, which, man, tough.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe like a lot of them will be like gambling apps. Like apparently you can make a lot of money
Gambling, yeah.
getting people to gamble.
That's right, yeah.
So like start a business.
Polymarket and
Yeah.
Kalshi.
Yeah, but maybe you need funding to like build a Polymarket competitor.
For sure,
Right? So
for
you got to
sure,
go
yeah.
through rails like this. So
Yeah, so this is a tweet I found interesting. It says the head of legal at Base owns 1.4% of Prism.
yeah, that's weird. That's a large percentage, dude.
Very large.
Yeah, and so I thought this was interesting to include just because, it feels like there's a lot of legal questions for a project like this.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
It for sure. It's just you just geo block Americans. Unfortunately,
Okay. That's the solution to everything.
it seems so.
All right. Well, the head of base legal seems to agree. And
Yeah.
He's got like a huge bag in this specific token, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of interesting, we got another one on Robinhood. It says if stocks can be memes, then memes can be stonks.
This is much.fun.
Much.fun. Create memes stonks. Get backing. Clock in stonks. 4,404 brokers awaiting activation. Backing is backed with a basket of 3 Bitcoin-based assets. That's a lot of B's there. Did you notice that?
Bitcoin is backed, basket of 3 Bitcoin-based assets. It just needed a B at the end.
Bro.
Bitcoin-based assets, I guess. I don't know.
Based, yeah. Backers own their Uniswap V4 fees and assets. So what does the platform look like? Looks like this.
So this is Benny's platform, right?
This is Benny, yeah. This is a cook from Tap Protocol here.
So explain what's happening here.
Yeah, so there's an explainer on. So there's a couple interesting things. The first token that launched here is at the very bottom. It's, for example, they have a V1 version here and then a V2, but V1 it's Pineapple. This one launched, it got backed 100%, and it's trading right now. And here's the token. So what does this platform do? This platform allows you to purchase these credits using ETH, and these credits are backed by 3 assets. And here are the docs, and those 3 assets include TAP, NAT, which is DMT NAT, and GIB.
Those are familiar assets.
Yeah. And so every time you purchase these credits, you are essentially funding the vault here of these 3 assets. And those credits are allowing you to actually get into meme tokens that are also supporting these 3 assets here.
And this is happening on Robinhood.
And it's happening on Robinhood.
So this is why Benny migrated, NAT and
That's right.
TAP and GIB to Robinhood and formed these Uniswap pools, right? So that programmatically people who buy ETH to buy credits, it's purchasing correctly from these pools to fill up this vault. And again, the credits themselves is like the main purchasing anchor here, right?
Yes.
It's like if you want to get in on like a stonk.
Yeah.
Not a stock, a stonk. He's calling them stonks, even though they're not like stock related.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just rebranded a meme to a stonk. And essentially, if you want in on one, get some credits, compile those credits into a launch, and then that's it. That's your exposure access instead of like being on a bonding curve, basically.
Yeah.
Typically, these things are launched through bonding curves, but this is a different launch mechanism.
It's more about backing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I would expect for this to evolve moving forward, like an incorporation of new baskets that can be formed using tokenized stocks or some sort of RWA integration, right? In order for this to like truly resonate with the Robinhood community.
Because we spent all this time talking about the Robinhood like projects, and they all have some aspect of tokenized stocks.
RWAs.
Yeah.
That's clearly what the market is signaling. They want exposure, access to some form of RWA gain. And a treasury and a vault
is a
of
good
basketed
start.
assets could actually really do well in that regard.
Yeah, and it is doing well on Robinhood, right? From a separate project. So this is Benny's project. We talked about a bunch of things on Robinhood, namely Prism. A couple interesting things happening. If you guys find anything interesting within the Robinhood space that you guys want us to look into, put it in the comment section below. I appreciate you for watching, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.